I'm backing Santa to win that one. Don't know about you at home. Right, let's have a look at today's newspapers now. Johnny Gould and Nabila Ramdani are with us again.
Morning, Sarah-Jane.
Hello again. Now, we are going to start, Nabila, with the front page of the Times. And this is Ireland issuing a warning to the Prime Minister today over Brexit, encouraging her not to go back on any... I've got no idea where we've got airline... Oh, there we go, fine. Encouraging her not to go back on what she set out last week.
Yes, indeed. This is essentially a story about both Ireland and indeed EU diplomats who are now questioning Theresa May's commitment to avoid a hard border, which she alluded to last week and which she pretty much guaranteed as part of the ongoing negotiations. And what they're urging her to do is not to basically back away from that agreement. And I think there were minor celebrations about Ireland falling to line with what the British government wanted, but we always have to remember that this is the beginning of the beginning. And, you know, as we say, many a slip between cup and lip, and we will see many more massive disagreements over the months and years ahead, and especially as the Brexit deal is massively intertwined with one of the most historically charged political situations ever, and that's, of course, Irish nationalism. So that will remain, I'm afraid, at the core of these ongoing stories. And one of the great regrets of those who fought so hard to pacify Ireland is that old wounds might now be reopened because of the vastly different arrangements between what Britain clearly wants compared to the Republic. So there is, you know, the danger that the Troubles, where nationalism and religion were very much, you know, the main issues, might become the contentious issues again.
Johnny, take us to the Huffington Post. Boris Johnson ends his visit to Iran without an announcement over Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and her release.
It would have been nice in an ideal world at the end of his two-day visit, Sarah-Jane, that Boris Johnson would say something and that Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe would be coming home. Unfortunately, the scope of the discussions with his counterpart, the Foreign Minister, and President Rouhani were extremely broad-ranging, and he picked a time to go there, I think, to settle Iranian Shia nerves over what Donald Trump has done by declaring Israel the capital of Jerusalem. There's a little nugget, wasn't there, just after Donald Trump's announcement that Britain would still back Iran in the deal that President Obama did. And indeed, that was among the discussions. Also, there is apparently a debt of £400 million, which appears to be the ransom that is going to be paid to Nazanin Ratcliffe for her release. But also, there's another little bit of an annoyance that the Iranians have, which is they don't understand why we can't open a bank account here in London for our Iranian embassy. And Boris said, oh, I think we'll sort that one out. We'll phone up his mate at the HSBC and get that sorted out. But of course, the reason why the banks won't deal with the Iranian embassy is because they don't wish to upset the status quo with the United States. I think Boris will sort that out. But as you can see, the reason why there hasn't been a deal is because actually they haven't solved these things within those 2 days.
Nabila, take me to the Daily Mail. They have got a double-page spread on Max Clifford, who died over the weekend, and their headline, "Shameless to the End."
Yes, indeed, and that's what the view that reflects the view of the victims, of the many victims of Max Clifford. And I think, you know, we of course all remember Max Clifford standing in front of his Rolls-Royce and huge house doing non-stop interviews when he seemed to control much of the popular news agenda. And I think that seems to, this attitude seems to be summed up by the Mail spread, you know, this kind of arrogant and indeed shameless posture that the victims are focusing on now. But I think at times like this, it's of course hugely important for a civilized country to show compassion for somebody who has died. And I know there will be many who will be paying their respect to his family. But of course, we also have to remember Max's victim, ranging from, you know, the very serious sex abuse to those whose lives have been ruined effectively by intrusion into their lives, as others, you know, pursued vast profits effectively. And I think what this story sums up really is that Max Clifford is very much a tale of our times, and it's all about hubris really, and a massive downfall. And I think we can all learn from this to become a more tolerant society, maybe.
Johnny, we can't go through the paper review without talking about the weather. It's on most of the front pages and inside as well. And this is another story from inside the Daily Mail, and they're calling us a bunch of snowflakes because the country is grinding to a halt.
It really slowed us down, didn't it? Heathrow Airport had lots of cancellations, plus, of course, airports in Manchester and Glasgow. There's lovely pictures of the A130. Not lovely if you were in it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
From a journalistic point of view, lovely pictures there, and a train on, I should say a lorry on its uppers, and in the Peak District as well. Birmingham has shut its schools today. Hurrah, they're saying, all the kids there. But in all seriousness, it's started to melt here. It's not melting around the country, and apparently, according to the Daily Express, that very vanguard of all things weather, it's going to carry on all the way to Christmas, even minus 15. Never heard the like of it.
Hopefully no wind chill.
Well, yeah. Kirsty was saying, you know, she's eyeing up a white Christmas. She's going to bring us the weather details in a bit. She'll talk more about that. Nabila, talk to me about this story in The Guardian. It's a story we're covering today. The head of one of the NHS trusts quitting over funding.
Yes, it's a very important story. Effectively, Lord Kerslake has stepped down over the lack of funding of the NHS. He's chair of King's College Hospital. And he calls for a fundamental rethink of the whole system. And he talks about the inexorable pressures faced by hospitals. And clearly what he says is that the Chancellor, Philip Hammond, even though he injected you know, an awful lot of money into 2.8 billion to the NHS recently, that is not enough. And funding is a massively important issue. And I think there is a perception in Britain at the moment that so much time and effort and indeed money is being, you know, put into Brexit, and that this kind of subject is perhaps being ignored. And we see from this case that there's a huge amount of anger and resentment within what was once a magnificent institution, and that the way the NHS is funded and indeed organised is currently in serious trouble. And it's a real shame, because obviously there are other numerous success stories in the NHS as well. OK,
well, I'll have more on that throughout the morning here on Sky News Sunrise. Thank you both. We're going to take a quick break. We'll have more stories from inside today's papers after that. Nabila and Johnny taking us through today's papers. And Johnny, in the Sun newspaper, if we were to have a Labour government, where would they move the Bank of England?
They would move it to a site next to New Street Station in Birmingham. No, but this isn't quite as chuckly as it should be. Chancellor John McDonnell says that's where we're going to move it from the old Lady of Threadneedle Street to Brum. But actually, you know, the world's first city municipal bank was in Birmingham, the Birmingham Municipal Bank. Of course, it was the centre of the world's industry, was it not, 150 years ago? And it needed money straight into to feed it all. The TSB is the son or daughter of that Birmingham Municipal Bank.
So there's a historic reason, but what's the practical reason for moving it? Well, the
practical reason is apparently there is an underweighting of, as we all know, the north-south divide. Anywhere outside London is not policy for. That's why we see the Beeb in Salford, of all places, and various other organisations moving up to Leeds, etc. So why not print the money in Brum and have everything sorted there? Mervyn King, the former Chancellor, a former Governor of the Bank of England. Chancellor's quite a little Freudian slip there. He's a Brummie. Digby Jones, he's a Brummie. Lloyd's Bank started in Birmingham, and I think even the Midland did.
Who knew it had such an illustrious history?
So you did,
and
all about
telling us all about it.
There are practical reasons for, like, trade and finances. I mean,
I'm sure they'll find some spin.
Right, Nabila, in the Mirror, this is a great picture story. Don't worry, I've totally got this. Oh, it's my favourite picture of the day.
Yes, indeed. This is a wonderful story about Toby the dog, an 11-year-old doggy, who is a very agile dog, and he's pictured here balancing a Ninja Turtle on his head and being quite good at it. But he's also good at balancing icicles and festive fruits and indeed flowers. Very lovely pictures.
The internet loves this, don't they? I've seen lots of videos of dogs where owners balance sort of a bacon sandwich or something on their head, and they have to sit there patiently until they go, and then they can eat it or whatever.
Indeed, that's the reward.
Yeah, it's just feeding into that, although I hope that dog didn't eat that tortoise. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Johnny, in the Sun, a kick in the giblets.
Yes, the price of your turkey's up this year, and it's not because of Brexit. No, it's something else. The EU wholesale price for your average kilo of turkey has increased by about 11 pence a kilo, from £1.71 to £1.82, because of avian flu, which saw the need to kill millions of birds, or cull them, I should say, in Asia and Eastern Europe. So it's going to be more costly to have turkey this Christmas.
Are we getting stuffed?
Yeah. Good excuse to have something else. Do you have turkey at Christmas?
I do, actually, yeah.
Got to have turkey.
Fancy.
We have turkey, but we have sort of turkey, ham and a small beef joint. And I must admit, there's always turkey left over because you feel like you have to have it at Christmas.
Maybe
but I
the
always find it a bit dry.
I know what you mean. Maybe the
No
stuffing
offence
should
to my
be...
mum and dad's cooking, by the way.
Easy. Maybe the stuffing could be a bit bigger inside.
Okay.
To take the kilo price down.
Oh.
That's what we're going to say. Watch out.
There you go. Okay, with the price of turkey is going up, might mean you just get a bit more inventive this Christmas and try something different.
Yeah.
Okay, we are going to leave it there then. Thank you both very much indeed. We are going to take a look at the weather now. We've been looking at all the wintry pictures that you've been sending in and that are on the front pages of the papers today. Kirsty's got the details for the next 24 hours ahead.